going to figure out how to do ER and IR verbs with the subject pronouns. If you have looked at the other lessons before, we've already done a lesson on AR verbs with the subject pronouns. And we said that every verb in Spanish is either going to end in an AR, ER, or an IR. Well, we're going to learn a pattern where we can do the verbs that end in ER and a pattern for the verbs that end in IR. And so we'll be able to, anytime you see a verb out of the dictionary that ends in ER or IR, we'll be able to say who's doing the action of the verb in the present tense. Let's start off with ER verbs. So there's lots of ER verbs in Spanish, maybe not as many as there are AR verbs. And there's a lot of IR verbs also, maybe not quite as many as the ER and the AR. But let's look at an example of some of the ER verbs. We have comer as one, and then we have some exercises that we'll do a little bit later, where we have correr, romper, responder, aprender, beber, comer, comprender, leer, creer. So we'll have examples of several ER verbs that we're doing. And I've taken these verbs from, if you're doing the course where we're learning Spanish by jokes, these would be some of the verbs that are in those exercises. And so let's do the ER verbs first, and then we'll talk about IR verbs. Well, the pattern is if we have any verb that ends in ER, we're going to do kind of like what we did with the AR verbs. We're going to cross off the ER, and then in its place, we have certain endings, and the endings depend upon who the subject pronouns are. And as we've talked before, in Spanish, there are 6 conjugations, and that's why you'll see 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. Well, these are the different personal pronouns that we would use that would control what the verb endings are, or the conjugations for the ER verbs. And so we'll use as an example, one of the most common ER verbs is comer. Comer means to eat. So if I was going to say I eat, yo is I, we would take the O ending and we would cross off the ER. So we end up, and we put the O on the end. So we'd end up with como. Yo como, I eat. And that would work the same way with any other verb that ended in an ER. We just put the O ending on. Tu, you that is familiar. You that are my friend. You that are my relative. You're that someone I'm a peer with. We're on a first name basis. You that someone younger than me. We would cross off the ER and we would put ES as the ending. So with comer, you eat, we'd cross off the ER and I'd put the ES ending on, and we would have tu comes, you eat. Any other verb with ER, we put the ES ending on, it means you do the action of that verb. Well, we have a bunch of number 3s. We could have 3 for L, which is he eats. We could have 3 for she eats. Number 3, usted, you formal. You formal would be someone I want to show respect to, someone that has a title, someone that's older than me. And we have it. Again, it is in parentheses, meaning that we don't have a word in Spanish for it, but there's a way that we can get across the idea of it does whatever the action is by putting on the E ending here. So he eats, we cross off the ER and we got él come. She eats, ella is she. She eats, we cross off the ER and we also put come, ella come. Usted, you formal, eat. We cross off the ER, we put the E there. Usted come, you formal, eat. It eats. Well, we cross off the ER. There is no word for it in Spanish, so we would just put the E ending on, come. And so, come comida de perros. It eats dog food, if we're talking about a dog. Okay, let's go to the plural endings where there's more than one person. Number 4, we have nosotros. Nosotros means we that is masculine, or we that are part of a mixed group where there's at least one boy in the group of people that we call we. We cross off the ER, we put EMOS. So we eat would be nosotros comemos. We that are only girls, well, that would be nosotras, only girls in the group. We cross off the ER, we still put EMOS, and it'd be nosotras comemos. Vosotros, that means you, that's plural in Spain, and they only use it in Spain, so it's probably here we wouldn't use it that much, or in Mexico, Central America, or South America. We would cross off the ER and we put E with an accent, IS, ace. Remember, E makes the E sound. If we have I, E, E, and we say it fast together, A, ace. Okay, so you all in Spain eat, that would be vosotros comes. Número 5 again, vosotras, you all in Spain, but it's only girls in that group of all of you. We cross off the ER and put es. And so vosotras comes, you all girls eat. Number 6, we have ellos. Ellos means they. It would mean they that's masculine or they that are in a mixed group. We'd cross off the ER. We'd put an EN. Ellos comen. They that are just girls, that's ellas. We cross off the ER and put an EN. Ellas comen. Ustedes, you plural. Okay, if we you, the plural in any country, we would just say ustedes. Doesn't matter whether they're familiar or whether they are formal. We'd put an en ending on. Ustedes comen. All of you eat. And so the endings for ER verbs are O, ES, S, E, E. Nosotros would be hemos, EMOS. Vosotros es, E with an accent, IS. Ellos, ellas, ustedes would be N, EN. Let's go back now and let's talk about IR verbs. There are a group of verbs in Spanish, not quite as many, but there's still a lot of them that end in IR. So let's look down at some examples of verbs that you would find in the dictionary that end in IR. We have vivir, that means to live. But if we look down on some IR verbs that if you've taken the course with Learning Spanish by Jokes, you'd already know some of these words. Permitir, permit. Existir, exist. Escribir, to write. Vivir is to live. Subir is to climb or to go up. Decidir is to decide. Well, all of these are examples of verbs that end in IR. And if you were looking for a verb in the dictionary, if you said, if you look in the dictionary and you look up write, well, they would end up with having escribir that ends in IR. Well, the IR verbs are almost the same as the ER verbs. There's only one difference. The O is still going to be O. To would be ES. El, ella, usted, or it would be the E ending. All that's exactly the same as the ER verbs. Now, here's where the difference is. If we have nosotros, it would be nosotros with IMOS, imos, nosotras, imos, vosotros in Spain, is, and vosotras in Spain would be is. And so those would be different. So nosotros and vosotros, we have a little difference with the IR verbs. But then we get to number 6. It's still going to be the same. Let's go look up here. For the ER verbs, the number 6 pronouns would be N, N, N. Well, we will see for the IR verbs, they're N, N, N. So IR verbs are like ER verbs with all of them except for nosotros and vosotros. And for us, really, nosotros is the only one we really have to worry about because we're not going to deal with vosotros very much. So let's go through and let's pick a verb as an example. Let's pick the verb vivir. Vivir means to live. So if I want to say I live, well, I'm going to cross off the IR, and for yo, I would put the O ending on. So yo vivo, I live. Tu, we would put the ES ending on, cross off the IR, put the ES, it'd be tu vives. He lives, she lives, usted you live, it lives. All of them are going to have the same ending, same word. It's going to end in an E. So he lives, él vive. She lives, ella vive. Usted, you formal live, usted vive. It lives. We don't say any word for it. We would just say vive. Well, let's go to nosotros. Well, nosotros and vosotros is the only thing that's a little bit different than the ER verbs. With nosotros, we'll cross off the IR and we put IMOS. So we want to say we live, we have nosotros, we cross it off, put on IMOS, nosotros vivimos. We that are girls, we live. Well, nosotras, it's still going to be vivimos. Vosotros in Spain, not that important for us, but if we were going to do it or if we saw it, it would have the I with an accent S ending. So vosotros vivís. Vosotras, you all that are girls in Spain, also would be vivís, I with an accent S. They live. Ellos, we cross off the ER, we put an EN, and that would be viven. Ellas, cross off the IR, put EN. Ellas viven, they live. Ustedes, we cross off the IR, we put an EN, and that would be ustedes viven. So our endings would be O, S, A, imos, is, en. Well, they're very similar, slight difference, only with nosotros. Well, let's go through and let's do a little bit of practice. So here I've kind of put everything together. I've got ER and IR present tense verbs. Yo, if it's an I, doesn't matter whether it's ER or IR, we have an O. Tu, you, familiar. It doesn't matter whether it's ER or IR, they would both be ES ending. He, she, usted, it, or the name of one person, like Juan or Maria, still going to be the same. We would cross off the ER or the IR and we'd put E. Nosotros, well, here's where we have a difference. Nosotros, if it's an ER verb, we'll cross off the ER and put EMOS. If it's an IR verb, we cross off the IR and put IMOS. Same thing with nosotras, we that are feminine. Hemos with the ER verbs, emos with the IR verbs. Vosotros, we just need this for recognition. You plural masculine in Spain, ER verbs es, E with an accent IS. You plural masculine in Spain with IR verbs, is, I with an accent S. Vosotras, you all girls, you all feminine from Spain, ER verbs, es, E with an accent IS. IR verbs, I with an accent S. They that are boys, they that are girls, and all of you would all have the EN ending. Okay, well, let's go through, and I have picked some verbs. We're going to do both the ER and IR at the same time because they are so close, and if we got nosotros, then we're going to have to be careful, but other than that, we should be able to get it. So I run, that would be yo is I. Well, run, they're telling us it's an ER verb. And what's nice, if you learn the pattern, even if you don't know what the verb means, if it ends in ER, IR, you know how you could say, I do the action of whatever this verb happens to be. And if it's an IR, I do the action. So we should be able to tell. Well, we know it's an ER verb, so we would go CORR. We're going to get rid of the ER. We put an O. Yo corro. Let's do number 2. You familiar, permit. Well, we're telling you to permit is permitir. It's an IR verb. It's you. Doesn't matter whether it's ER or IR, it'd still be the same ending. So we go PERMIT. We get rid of the IR and we would put the ending ES. Tu permites. Okay, I want you to do 3 through 15. And so if you need to, take time, scroll. If you have a course that I'm giving you, you would have a paper copy of this also, so you would be able to scroll up very easily to see all of these endings. So let's do 3 through 15. I'll pause for a little bit, and then I'll come back and make sure you have all of the correct answers. So we'll pause in 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay, we're back. You should have gone through and put the conjugations or the endings on. Well, he breaks or he tears, that's romper. We're going to cross off the ER, and if it's for he, él, we'd put the E ending. Él rompe. We respond, oh, we got to be careful now because we have we. Well, nosotros is we, and the verb is an ER verb in this case. It'd be responder. So we're going to cross off the ER, and since it is an ER verb, we put on the ending EMOS. Nosotros respondemos. Number 5, we exist. Well, we again, so we got to be careful because we've got to determine whether it's an AR, ER, IR verb. Well, this one ends in IR, so we're going to cross off the IR, but we would have to put IMOS if it is going to be nosotros, existimos. They learn. Well, they is ellos. We have learned. They're telling us right here, that's aprender. So we get rid of the ER, and it doesn't matter whether it's ER or IR, we would still have the same ending. It would be the EN, ellos aprenden. Let's go to number 7, I drink. Well, I is yo. They're telling us drink is an ER verb. It ends in an ER. We're going to cross off the ER. For yo, we'd put an O. Yo bebo. You familiar, eat. Well, you familiar, we know that's tu. Eat comes from the verb comer. It is an ER verb. So we're going to cross off the ER, and with tu, that would be the ES ending. Tu comes. She writes. So she is ella, and so we have escribir. It's an IR verb. We're going to get rid of the IR, and let's look up real quick if it says she, and it's an IR verb. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's ER or IR. Both of them are going to have the same ending, which is an E. So let's go back down, and let's put the E for ella escribe. Number 10, we feminine. Oh, now we know it's we. And know if it's we've got to figure out whether it's ER or IR, remember? Because they're different depending whether they're ER or IR. Well, they're telling us it's the verb live. And so we have nosotras, feminine, we, feminine. And we have vivir. It's an IR verb. And so we'll get rid of the IR. And if we have nosotros and it's feminine, nosotras, we're going to put the ending IMOS. Nosotras vivimos. Number 10, we feminine with comprehend. Well, we feminine is also nosotras with the AS. Comprender is an ER verb, so we've got to get the endings for an ER verb with nosotros. And if we have to look up here, we can. Nosotros, we with an ER verb would be EMOS. And so nosotros comprendemos. EMOS. Number 12, they feminine, get on or climb up. They that's feminine would be ellas. It is an IR verb, subir. So we can look for they that's feminine. Well, that's number 6. And it doesn't matter whether it's ER or IR. The ending is going to be EN. So ellas suben. Numero 13, you plural, decide. Well, you plural, that would be ustedes. And we have decide, it is an IR verb, decidir. So if we have an IR verb with ustedes, we can look up here. Ustedes, it doesn't matter whether it's ER or IR. Both of them have the same ending of EN. Ustedes deciden. Number 14, I read. Yo with leer. Well, if it's yo, we're going to cross off the ER. We'll put the ending on. In this case, for yo would be an O. Yo leo. 15, you formal believe. You formal, that would be like usted. That's somebody that has a title, one person with a title or older than you or somebody you want to show respect to. Creer is an ER verb. So we're going to get rid of the ER, and the ending we would do for usted is E. Doesn't matter whether it's ER or IR, it would still be the E. So we put the E on it, and it'd be usted cree. Well, let's go back and do a really quick review before we end our video. We've talked about two different types of verbs in Spanish. Verbs that end in ER, verbs that end in IR. We said if a verb ends in ER, the endings are OS, A, hemos, es, en. If the verb ends in IR, the endings are OSA, hemos, is, en. The only difference between the two is with the number 4 conjugations, nosotros and nosotras, and the number 5 conjugations, which we're not going to use very much, from Spain, the vosotros or the vosotras. ER verbs, it's EMOS. IR verbs, it's IMOS. Okay, well, let's go down here. We've already done the exercises. If this lesson was beneficial to you, I hope that you will subscribe to my channel. If you're interested in learning Spanish by jokes, by popular songs, by internet cultural videos in Spanish, by stories from famous Spanish authors, or from culture, from my stories and experiences in the Spanish-speaking world, please go to this link, which is www.spanishmadefun, all one word, small letters.com. If you click on the link here, that should be able to take you there. If you do any of these things, the jokes, the songs, the videos, the readings, or the culture, we will practice vocabulary. We'll practice these grammar principles that we've been talking about a little bit by using the vocabulary that comes out in these activities. Well, hope to see you on the next video, and I hope to see you soon. Bueno, hasta el próximo.